The wind came first. It always did in Silver Creek Valley, sweeping down from the Chiricahua Mountains like the breath of something ancient and angry. July 1883, and the heat sat on the land like a cast iron skillet left too long over the fire. 110 degrees by midday. The kind of heat that made lizards seek shade and smart men stay indoors. But Winona Stone was neither a lizard nor a man, and she had learned long ago that the land did not care about comfort. She stood at the fence line of her ranch hammer in hand, driving a nail into split cedar with the kind of precision that came from necessity rather than choice. Sweat traced lines down her temples, darkening the collar of her cotton workshirt. Her hands, calloused and strong, moved with mechanical efficiency. 30 nails, 30 strikes, no wasted motion. The fence was her responsibility now. Everything was her responsibility now. Behind her, the ranch house sat low against the ridge. Adobe walls the color of dried blood, a roof of weathered pine that had somehow survived 5 summers since Benjamin built it. Her husband, dead now, 16 months. Thrown from a spooked horse during a thunderstorm, his neck broken before he hit the ground. Clean death, the doctor had said, as if death could ever be clean. Winona paused, wiping her brow with the back of her hand. Her skin was the color of copper, a legacy from her Chiricahua Apache mother. Her eyes were dark brown like wet earth after rain. Her black hair was pulled back tight, secured with a leather cord to keep it from interfering with her work. She wore one of Benjamin's old shirts, too large for her frame, but practical for ranch work. At 29 years old, her hands were as calloused as any man's, her back as strong, her will harder than the granite bedrock beneath her feet. The ranch was small by territory standards, 320 acres of scrubland and miracle. The miracle was Willow Springs, a natural spring that flowed cold and clear from a crack in the bedrock. 15 gallons per minute, steady and reliable, even in the worst drought. It was the only water source in 50 miles that never ran dry. Benjamin had chosen this land for that reason. Water was life in the Arizona territory. Water was power. Water was everything. He had built the irrigation system himself. Oak troughs running 200 feet from the spring to 3 cattle tanks and a storage cistern near the house. It was the only irrigation system in 50 miles that did not depend on rain. 40 head of longhorn cattle grazed on the sparse grass. A dozen alpine dairy goats provided milk. 20 Rhode Island red chickens scratched in the dust near the barn. It was enough to survive. Barely enough, but enough. Winona drove another nail. The sound echoed across the empty valley, sharp and lonely. She had learned that survival was not about strength. It was about showing up every morning and doing what needed to be done. Even when your hands bled. Even when your heart felt like stone. Even when the graves under the cottonwood tree called to you in the quiet hours of the night. 2 graves, one large, one small. Benjamin Stone, and beside him, Samuel Stone Jr., their son. The boy had died 3 years before his father. Scarlet fever, the doctor said. It came from a wagon train passing through Las Cruces, carried by travelers from the east who did not know they were bringing death with them. 72 hours, that was all it took. The first day, Samuel had a mild fever. Winona thought it was just a cold, nothing to worry about. The second day, the red rash spread from his neck to his chest. His temperature climbed to 104 degrees. He began to convulse. The third day, in the gray light before dawn, his breathing stopped. He was 3 years old. Winona had held his body for 6 hours before Benjamin could pry her away. She remembered the weight of him growing cold in her arms. She remembered the silence so profound it felt like drowning. She still heard his cough sometimes in the wind. Still felt the heat of his forehead under her palm. Still saw his face in her dreams, though the details grew hazier with each passing year. That was perhaps the cruelest part of grief, how it stole even the memories it claimed to preserve. And before Samuel, before Benjamin, there had been another loss. The first loss. The one that had shaped everything that came after. Cañon de los Embudos, 1863. Winona had been 9 years old. The United States Cavalry had come at dawn in retaliation for a raid by a different Apache band in a different territory. They did not distinguish between tribes. They did not distinguish between warriors and women, between threats and children. 30 people died that morning, most of them women and children. Winona's mother, whose Apache name meant woman in the Chiricahua tongue, had been shot while trying to shield her daughter. The bullet entered through her back and her blood sprayed across Winona's face. The girl ran, For 3 days, she ran through the desert, drinking from puddles, eating nothing, hiding in crevices too small for adult bodies. On the fourth day, a group of Presbyterian missionaries found her half dead from dehydration and took her to their school. They taught her English there, taught her to read and write, to dress and speak like a white woman. They beat her when she spoke Apache. They told her that her people were savages, that her mother's ways were evil, that only through Christ could she be saved. Winona learned to survive. She learned to wear the mask they required to speak their language, to move through their world. But she never forgot. She never forgave. And now at 29, she was alone again. The last survivor of a family that had been erased piece by piece by disease and accident and violence. She checked the sun. 2 hours until dusk. Time to bring the cattle in closer to the house. Time to check the water troughs. Time to cook a meal she would eat alone, sitting at a table that still had 2 empty chairs. That was when she heard it. Gunfire. 3 shots, sharp and distinct, carried on the wind from the south. The sound of a pistol, .45 caliber by the report. Then silence. Then more shots, rapid now, 5 or 6 in quick succession. Rifle fire? Winchester probably. The sound of panic rather than precision. Winona dropped the hammer. Her hand moved to the Winchester model 1876 leaning against the fence post. .45-75 caliber, a rifle with enough stopping power to drop a buffalo at 200 yards. Benjamin had bought it for protection against predators, both animal and human. Her mother's people did not wait to understand a threat. They prepared for it. That instinct, buried deep beneath years of missionary education, surged to the surface now. She brought the rifle up, scanning the horizon with practiced eyes. The shots had come from Red Canyon, a narrow cut in the hills about 2 miles south. Someone was in trouble there, or someone was causing trouble. Neither was her business. But then she saw them. 2 riders coming fast across the flats. One tall, hunched low over the saddle, the other smaller, clinging to the tall one's back like a shadow. Behind them, 3 more riders in pursuit, kicking up rooster tails of red dust, closing the distance. More shots. The lead rider jerked, nearly lost his seat, kept riding. Winona studied the scene with the analytical eye of a hunter. The pursuers rode quarter horses fast over short distances, but lacking endurance. The fugitives rode a Mustang mix, slower, but capable of running all day. If the chase continued for another 2 miles, the fugitives might escape. But Red Canyon was only half a mile ahead, and the canyon narrowed at one point to just 30 feet across. If the fugitives were driven into that bottleneck, they would become easy targets. Winona made a decision in the space of 3 heartbeats, not because she was brave, not because she was kind, but because she had been the one running once and no one had stopped to help. She vaulted onto her paint mare, a horse named Sage. No saddle, just a rope halter, the way her mother had taught her before the soldiers came. Her heels drummed the horse's flanks, and they were moving, flying across the hard pan toward the canyon mouth where the chase would bottleneck. She knew this land. Every wash, every stone, every place where a smart person could hide and a foolish person could die. The canyon narrowed ahead, sheer walls rising on both sides. The fleeing riders plunged into it without hesitation, desperation overriding caution. The pursuers followed. Winona reached the high ground above the canyon just as the chase passed below. From this position, she had a clear view of all 5 riders. The man in front was perhaps 36 or 37 years old. Dust-covered, bleeding from his left arm, riding with the grim determination of someone who had nothing left to lose. He wore a weathered Stetson hat and a leather vest with a faded outline where a badge had once been pinned. A Colt single-action Army revolver hung low on his right hip, positioned for a fast draw. An 8-inch Bowie knife was sheathed on his left. His hands, even from this distance, showed the calluses of a working man. Between thumb and forefinger, from gripping a pistol. Across the palms, from holding reins. At the fingertips, from working with rope. These were the hands of a cowboy, a man who had spent his life on horseback under the open sky. Clinging to his back was a child. A girl, perhaps 7 years old, dark hair whipping in the wind, face pressed against the man's shoulder. She held a shapeless fabric doll in one small fist, clutching it as if it were the only thing keeping her anchored to the world. The 3 men chasing them wore range clothes but carried themselves like hired guns. Professional. Dangerous. One of them raised a rifle, taking aim at the man's back. At the child's head. Winona did not think. She drew her bow. Her mother had taught her that the Apache do not use guns when silence serves better in the years before the soldiers came. She learned to string a bow from mulberry wood and deer sinew. She learned to aim not at where the target was, but where it would be. The bow had a 50-pound draw weight. The arrow was tipped with hand-knapped obsidian sharper than steel. She drew, she aimed, she released. The arrow flew in a perfect arc, physics and instinct combining into something like art. It struck the lead pursuer's horse in the haunch. Not deep enough to kill, but enough to cause pain. The animal screamed and reared, throwing its rider hard into the canyon wall. The man hit stone with a sickening crack and crumpled unmoving. The other two pursuers pulled up in confusion, their momentum broken. They looked around wildly, trying to locate the source of the attack. By then, the fleeing man and child had disappeared around the bend. Winona did not wait to see more. She wheeled Sage and rode hard for Willow Springs, taking a different path, one that would bring her to the water ahead of the strangers. If they were smart, they would stop there. Everyone stopped at Willow Springs eventually. It was the only water for 50 miles, and thirst in this country was a death sentence. She reached the spring 10 minutes before they did. By the time the man and child came stumbling through the brush, their horse limping badly from a stone bruise, Winona was waiting. She stood in the shade of the cottonwood trees that ringed the spring, her Winchester held loose, but ready, her face expressionless. The man saw her and froze. His face was weathered, creased at the eyes from years of squinting against sun and wind. A scar ran from his left cheekbone to his jaw, an old wound that had healed badly. His shirt was soaked with sweat and blood. His right hand hovered near the Colt at his hip, but he did not draw. Smart man. The child slid from the horse and collapsed, hitting the ground hard. She did not get up. Her lips were cracked, her eyes sunken. The signs of stage 2 dehydration, which could progress to stage 3 within hours if not treated. Winona stepped forward, the rifle barrel dropping slightly. Not trust, just calculation. Who gave you permission to drink from this water? Her voice was flat, unaccented. The English of mission schools and careful erasure. The man raised both hands slowly, palms out. I am sorry, ma'am. We just need water. That is all. Just water. The child is in bad shape. Winona studied him, noted the badge outline on his vest, faded but visible where a star had once been pinned. Noted the calluses on his hands, the careful way he positioned himself between her and the child. Protective, not predatory. She lowered the rifle completely. Bring her to the shade. There is a trough. Cold water. Make her drink slowly or she will vomit. The man did not question. He scooped the child up, cradling her with the tenderness of someone who had practiced at it, and carried her to the wooden trough fed by the spring. He dipped his hand, brought water to the child's lips, a few drops at a time. Slow now, he murmured. Slow, baby girl. The child drank, coughed, drank again. After a moment, her eyes opened fully. Brown eyes, ancient in a young face. She looked at Winona and flinched. It is all right, the man said quietly. This lady is helping us. Winona watched them for a long moment. Then she turned toward the barn. Bring her inside, out of the sun. There is food, not much but enough. The man hesitated. Ma'am, I do not want to impose. We can rest here and move on. Winona looked back at him. Those men are still hunting you. They will check the spring. You stay out here, you die, or they find you. Your choice, well. She walked toward the ranch house without waiting for an answer. Behind her, she heard the man speak softly to the child, heard the girl whisper something back, too quiet to catch, heard footsteps following. Good. She had not saved them to watch them die of stupidity. The inside of the house was dim and cool. Thick adobe walls held back the heat, maintaining a temperature 20 degrees lower than outside. A single main room contained a stone fireplace, a rough-hewn table, and 3 chairs. One doorway led to a small bedroom. Another led to what had once been a pantry and was now just storage. Winona gestured to the table. Sit. The man lowered the child into one of the chairs. The girl sat stiffly, her eyes darting around the room, cataloging everything, trusting nothing. Survival instincts. Winona recognized them. This child had known fear before today. She poured water from a clay jug into 2 tin cups and set them on the table. Then she moved to the stove where a pot of rabbit stew had been simmering since morning. She ladled portions into 2 bowls, added cornbread from a covered basket. The child stared at the food like it might vanish. Eat. The girl did not need to be told twice. She attacked the stew with desperate hunger, shoving bread into her mouth between spoonfuls. The man ate more slowly, methodically, the way soldiers ate, the way people who had gone hungry ate when they finally had food again. Winona sat in the third chair, the one she never used, and watched them. After a few minutes, the man set down his spoon. "Thank you. We have not eaten in 2 days." "Who were those men? I do not know their names, but I know who sent them." "And who is that?" The man looked at her directly. His eyes were gray, the color of rain clouds worn with exhaustion and shadowed by things he had seen and could not forget. "A man named Marcus Blackwood. I worked for him for 2 weeks. He runs cattle, or says he does. What he really does is steal." Winona felt something tighten in her chest. She knew that name. Everyone in the territory knew that name. "Blackwood brands other people's cattle," the man continued, "then accuses them of theft. He has done it to 3 ranches in the last year. Takes their land when they cannot prove the cattle were theirs to begin with. And you objected." "I did. I told him what he was doing was illegal. I told him I would report it." The man's jaw tightened. "I used to be a United States Marshal, 8 years from 72 to 80, New Mexico and Arizona territory. I know the law and I know when a man is breaking it. Used to be, I gave up the badge after my wife died." His voice dropped. "Typhoid fever. In 80. I was out chasing outlaws in the Southern Territory when she fell ill. By the time I got back, she was already gone." He looked at the child. "I failed to protect her, so I did not trust myself to protect anyone else. I turned in my badge and started working ranch jobs. Ordinary cowboy work, until I signed on with Blackwood and saw what he was doing." Winona's gaze moved to the girl who had finished eating and was now clutching her doll with both hands. The child looked back with those old eyes. "Where is her mother? She is not mine by blood. Her real parents were killed by bandits 3 years ago. I found her hiding under their wagon, 4 years old, covered in her mother's blood. Could not leave her there." He paused. "Been moving ever since. Looking for work. Looking for a place to stop running." Silence settled over the table. Outside, cicadas began their evening song. Finally, Winona stood. "You can stay the night. There is a loft in the barn, hay and blankets. Your horse needs rest. Let it recover." The man rose slowly. "Thank you, Mrs." He paused. "I am sorry. I did not ask your name." "Winona Stone." Recognition flickered across his face. "You are Apache." "Half. My mother was Chiricahua. My father I never knew. I was raised by missionaries after my mother died. I married a white man. He is dead now, too." She met his eyes. "So I am just myself. Nothing more, nothing less." The man nodded slowly. "I am Jack Dawson. Everyone calls me Jack. And this is Lily. We are pleased to meet you, Mrs. Stone. Even under these circumstances. Just Winona. Mrs. Stone is a ghost." She moved to the door and opened it. The evening light poured in golden and thick. "Be ready before dawn. If Blackwood's men come, they will come at first light." Jack hesitated. "Why are you helping us?" Winona looked at him. Really looked. Saw the exhaustion carved into his face. Saw the way he kept one hand on Lily's shoulder, anchoring himself to something that mattered. Saw the badge outline on his vest, the ghost of who he used to be. "Because someone should have helped me once. And no one did." She stepped outside and closed the door behind her. The sun was setting now, painting the hills in shades of rust and shadow. Winona walked to the graves under the cottonwood tree and stood there until the stars came out. She did not pray. She had stopped praying the day her son died. But she spoke to the silence anyway. "I saved 2 people today. I do not know why. I do not know if it matters. But I did it." The wind picked up rustling through the dry grass. From the barn she heard the low murmur of Jack's voice singing something soft to Lily. A lullaby, perhaps. Or a prayer. Winona turned back to the house. For the first time in 16 months, there were voices on her land. For the first time since her son died, a child slept under her roof. It changed nothing. It changed everything. She did not sleep that night. She sat by the window, rifle across her lap, watching the darkness, waiting. In the long hours before dawn, she thought about Marcus Blackwood. She had heard stories. Everyone had. He had come to the territory about 5 years ago after some tragedy in the East. Some said he had lost a son killed by Apache raiders in the Northern Territories. Some said it had broken something inside him, turned him from an ordinary businessman into the monster, now devouring the territory piece by piece. Lost a child. Winona understood that. She understood how grief could transform a person, could twist them into something unrecognizable. But understanding did not mean acceptance. Blackwood's pain did not give him the right to cause pain to others. Dawn came without mercy. The sky split open with light, harsh and immediate, the way it always did in the high desert. No gentle transition from night to day. Just darkness and then fire. Winona stood on the porch, coffee in hand, watching the ridgeline. The air was already hot, thick with the promise of another brutal day. Behind her, she heard movement from the barn. Jack emerging, probably. The man moved quietly for someone his size, but not quietly enough to fool someone trained to track. He appeared a minute later, Lily trailing behind him, rubbing sleep from her eyes. The girl still clutched her doll, her other hand gripping her father's shirt. Jack saw Winona and nodded. "Morning, there is coffee. And eggs. The chickens gave 4 today." "You did not have to do that. The chickens do not care about hospitality. They lay eggs or they do not. Today they did." She turned back toward the house. "Come eat before the sun makes it too hot to think." Inside, she had set out a simple breakfast: scrambled eggs, more cornbread, goat's milk for Lily. Jack sat carefully, positioning himself so he could see both doors, his back to the wall. Lawman habits. They never went away. Lily ate slowly this time, no longer starving, just hungry. She looked up at Winona with those careful eyes. "Do you have any children?" Jack stiffened. "Lily, that is not—" "I did." Winona poured more coffee, her movements deliberate. "A son? He died 3 years ago. Fever. He was very small." Lily considered this. "That is sad." "Yes. Do you miss him every day?" The girl nodded as if this made perfect sense. "I miss my mama every day too." Something cracked open in Winona's chest. Just a little. Just enough to hurt. Jack cleared his throat. "We should talk about what happens next. Those men who were chasing us. They work for Blackwood. They will not stop because we got away. Men like that do not stop until they finish the job or someone makes them stop." Winona set down her cup. "Why does Blackwood want you dead so badly? There must be other workers who have quit." "Because I know too much. It is not just cattle rustling. He is buying up land, forcing people off their ranches. Not because he wants to run cattle, but because he wants to sell to the railroad. The Southern Pacific. You know about it. Everyone knows. The railroad is coming through the territory. Whoever controls the land controls the water. Whoever controls the water names the price." Jack leaned forward. "Your land has the spring. Willow Springs. I noticed the water troughs, the green grass where there should be only dust. That is what Blackwood wants. He has tried to buy it. 3 times. I said no 3 times. And the last time he threatened me. Said accidents happen to women living alone. Said barns catch fire. Said cattle wander off. Said people disappear." Jack's expression darkened. "Sounds like Blackwood. I sent a letter to the land office in Las Cruces asking them to confirm my property boundaries. They replied very slowly, said they would look into it, which means Blackwood got to them first." "Perhaps, not perhaps. Certainly." Jack stood and moved to the window, scanning the horizon out of habit. "I know how this works. I spent 8 years watching men like Blackwood operate. They buy the law before they break it. It is easier that way. Cleaner. So I should run. I am not saying that." "Then what are you saying?" Jack was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was softer. "I am saying that if you want to fight, you do not fight alone. And you do not fight with just a rifle. You fight with the law. You make him defend himself in court. Public record. Witnesses. You make it costly for him to take what is yours." Winona laughed, but there was no humor in it. "I am Apache, or half Apache. Courts do not favor people like me. Courts favor evidence. And we can get evidence. Jack looked at her steadily. "I owe you my daughter's life. That is a debt that matters. If you will have us, we will stay. Help you prepare. Help you fight, whatever you need." Winona studied him, saw the sincerity there, also saw the exhaustion, the need to stop running, to plant his feet somewhere and make a stand. Not just for her, for himself, for Lily. "You think we can win? I think we can make him bleed. And sometimes That is enough. Before Winona could respond, Lily spoke up. I can help too. I am good at remembering things, and I can be very quiet. People do not notice me. Jack smiled despite himself. She is right. Lily has a gift for being invisible when she wants to be, and her memory is remarkable. Winona looked at the child, saw the intelligence there, saw the need to be useful to matter. She understood that need. Then we work together. For now, we see what comes. Jack extended his hand. Winona shook it. His grip was firm, honest. Outside a horse whinnied. All three of them froze. Jack moved to the window, staying to the side of the frame. 3 riders, coming from the south. Winona grabbed her rifle. Lily, the root cellar, under the floor in the pantry. Go now. Do not come out until your father says. The girl did not argue. She ran. Jack pulled his Colt, checked the cylinder. 6 rounds of .45 long Colt ammunition. He grabbed the Remington double-barrel shotgun from his saddlebags. 12-gauge loaded with buckshot. You cover the front. I will get to the barn, come around the side. Crossfire if we need it. He was out the back door before she could object, moving fast, bent low, using the water trough for cover. He reached the barn and disappeared inside. Winona positioned herself at the window, rifle ready. She could see the riders clearly now. 3 men moving at an easy walk. Not the desperate pursuit of yesterday. This was different. This was a message. They stopped at the gate 30 yards out. The man in the lead was lean and hard-looking, wearing a long black duster despite the heat. His face was angular, scarred, the kind of face that had seen violence and learned to enjoy it. He removed his hat, revealing hair slicked back with pomade. She recognized him. Cole Hardin, Blackwood's enforcer. Hardin had a reputation throughout the territory. He had worked as a regulator during the Texas Range Wars of the 70s, a hired gun who killed for money. He was said to be fast with a pistol and utterly without conscience. Mrs. Stone Hardin called out, "My name is Cole Hardin. I work for Mr. Marcus Blackwood." Winona did not answer. Hardin smiled. "I know you are in there, ma'am. Saw the smoke from your stove this morning. Just want to talk, peaceful-like." Jack emerged from the barn, shotgun cradled in his arms, positioning himself to create crossfire if necessary. Hardin's eyes flicked to him. The smile did not waver. "Well now, look who crawled out of the ditch. Jack Dawson. Thought you would have kept running." "I got tired of running. That is a shame. Running keeps a man healthy, especially a man who made Mr. Blackwood angry." Hardin shifted in his saddle. "Here is the situation. Mr. Blackwood is a reasonable man. He wants to have a civil conversation with Mrs. Stone about purchasing her land. Seems there has been some misunderstanding about property lines." Winona stepped onto the porch, rifle held low but ready. "There is no misunderstanding. My husband purchased this land legally in 1876. I have the deed. The land office has the records. The boundaries are clear. See, that is where it gets complicated." Hardin pulled a folded paper from his coat. "According to the updated survey, Willow Springs sits on what is technically Mr. Blackwood's property. Now we know you have been using the water in good faith. Nobody blames you for that. But legally it belongs to him." "That is a lie." Hardin's smile thinned. "Careful, ma'am. That is a serious accusation. It is the truth." "Well, truth is a slippery thing, is it not?" Hardin refolded the paper and tucked it away. "Here is another truth. We found 14 head of cattle with Mr. Blackwood's brand on your land yesterday. Cattle theft is a hanging offense in this territory." "I inventoried my herd 3 days ago," Jack said, his voice hard. "Every cow, every calf. There were no Blackwood cattle here." Hardin turned his attention to Jack. "And you would be a reliable witness, a man who abandoned his job and ran out on his employer." "I quit. There is a difference. Not in court, there is not." Hardin leaned forward, saddle leather creaking. "Let me make this simple. Mr. Blackwood is offering Mrs. Stone a fair price for this land. More than fair. $5,000 cash. She takes the money, leaves quietly. Everyone is happy. No lawyers, no judges, no trouble. And if I refuse," Hardin looked at the house, at the barn, at the empty land stretching away on all sides. "This is a big valley, ma'am. Lots of things can happen out here. Fires, accidents. People get lost in the canyon sometimes and never find their way back." His eyes drifted toward the barn. "Would be a real shame if something happened to that little girl I saw peeking out earlier. The temperature dropped 10 degrees. Jack took one step forward, the shotgun rising slightly. His voice when he spoke was flat and cold in a way that made the horses nervous. You threaten that child again, and they will never find your body. This land is big, like you said, easy to disappear. Hardin held his gaze for a long moment. Something flickered behind his eyes. It might have been respect. It might have been fear. Just delivering a message. What you do with it is your business. He turned his horse. You folks have 48 hours to think it over. After that, Mr. Blackwood will be less generous. The three men rode off, not hurrying, making a point with their leisure. Jack did not lower the shotgun until they were out of rifle range. Winona called softly toward the barn. Lily, you can come out. The girl emerged from the root cellar, her face pale but composed. She walked to her father and he put his arm around her shoulders. They are going to come back, Winona said. It was not a question. Yes, and next time they will not talk first. How long do we have? 48 hours. Maybe less if Blackwood gets impatient. Winona looked at her land, at the spring flowing cold and clear, at the cottonwood trees swaying in the hot wind, at the two graves beneath them. Then we prepare, and we make it costly. Jack nodded. I will show you how to set up defensive positions, where to put water barrels in case of fire, how to signal for help if we get separated. We will need more than defense. We will need to attack, legally. Agreed. But first we survive. Then we fight. He looked down at Lily. You remember what I taught you about the warning whistle? 3, short, 1 long. Run to the hiding place, good girl. He met Winona's eyes. We should cache some supplies. Food, water, ammunition, in case we need to leave fast or hold out for days. There is a cave, North Ridge. My people used it for generations. Natural spring inside. Hidden entrance. You are full of surprises. I am Apache. We know how to survive. She started toward the house. Come. We have work to do. That afternoon, while checking the barn for defensible positions, they found the message. Written on the barn wall in charcoal block. Letters, 3 words, leave or burn. Below it, drawn crude but effective, a picture of the house engulfed in flames. Lily saw it first. She did not cry. She had seen too many frightening things to cry anymore. She just pressed against Winona's side, her small body trembling. Winona put her arm around the girl, feeling the fierce protectiveness that came with being a mother. She had lost one child. She would not lose another. Are they going to burn our house? No. Winona's voice was hard as steel. They are not. She looked at Jack. He nodded, understanding, without words. That night, after Lily fell asleep in the small bedroom, Winona and Jack sat at the table, candlelight flickering between them. We need a plan, Jack said. Not just defense. We need to attack. Legally. How I know how men like Blackwood operate. I spent 8 years watching them. They buy the law before they break it, but the law can also be used against them. Gather evidence, build a case, take it to a judge who cannot be bought. I am Apache, or half Apache. Courts do not favor people like me. Courts favor evidence. And we can get evidence. We. Jack looked at her steadily. I told you, I owe you my daughter's life. That is a debt that matters. If you will have us, we stay. We fight. Together. Winona was silent for a long moment. Then she nodded. All right, we do it your way first. If that does not work, she glanced at the Winchester leaning against the wall. We do it my way. Jack extended his hand across the table. Deal. They shook. His grip was firm and honest. Outside, hoofbeats sounded in the darkness. Both of them were on their feet instantly, weapons in hand. But then a familiar voice called out, Winona Stone. It is Sarah Cooper. I brought some people who want to help. Winona went to the door and opened it. Sarah Cooper stood in the moonlight, a weathered Mexican woman in her mid-30s. She was the widow of Miguel Mendoza, the man who had fallen to his death in a canyon last year, the man whose death everyone knew was not an accident. Behind Sarah, 4 more riders sat their horses, her brother Daniel and 3 other men from the Mexican community. I heard Blackwood is targeting you, Sarah said. Her smile was fierce. He took my husband. I will not let him take anyone else. Winona looked at the small group. 5 people, not an army, but not nothing either. For the first time in 16 months, she was not alone. Come inside, she said. We have planning to do. The first day after Sarah Cooper arrived, they worked like soldiers preparing for siege. Jack had seen combat during his years as a marshal. He had defended outposts against bandits, had fortified ranch houses against raids, had learned through blood and failure what worked and what got men killed. Now he applied that knowledge to Willow Springs with methodical precision. Clear the brush, he ordered. Everything within 50 yards of the buildings. No cover for attackers. They worked with axes and saws, 6 people laboring in the brutal heat. By noon, the temperature had climbed past 110 degrees. They rotated in shifts, one group cutting, while another rested in the shade and drank water. Daniel Cooper, Sarah's brother, was a construction worker from Las Cruces. 28 years old, strong as an ox with hands that knew how to build and how to destroy. He took charge of the physical fortifications. Dig trenches here, he said, marking lines in the dirt with his boot heel. 18 inches deep, 2 feet wide. Enough to trip a horse, not enough for a man to jump easily. They dug until their hands blistered and their backs screamed. The trenches formed a rough perimeter 30 yards from the house, covered with scattered brush for camouflage. Jack identified 4 defensive positions. The northeast corner of the house, which commanded a view of the main approach. The barn, which provided cover and a clear sight line to the canyon mouth. The feed shed, which protected the flank. And the water cistern, which was built of stone and could stop rifle rounds. Each position had overlapping fields of fire. No blind spots. No place where an attacker could approach unseen. For the fire threat, they filled every container they could find with water. Barrels, buckets, troughs, even cooking pots. They soaked burlap sacks and piled them near each building. Jack explained the principle. Fire is the real enemy. A bullet might miss. Fire does not. If they throw torches, you have 30 seconds to smother the flames before they spread. After that, you lose the building. They identified 3 escape routes. North through the canyon, a narrow path that horses could navigate single file. East through the dry creek bed, which provided cover from gunfire. And south to a cave that Winona knew from childhood, hidden in the ridge with a natural spring inside. This cave, Jack said, studying the entrance that was barely visible behind a screen of scrub oak. Your people used this for generations. Before the soldiers came. It is perfect. We cache supplies here. Food, water, ammunition, blankets. If everything goes wrong, this is where we regroup. They spent an entire afternoon hauling supplies up the ridge. 50 pounds of dried beef, 20 pounds of cornmeal, 6 canteens of water, 200 rounds of ammunition. Blankets, rope, a medical kit with bandages and whiskey for sterilization. While the adults fortified the ranch, Winona took Lily aside. The girl had been watching everything with those ancient eyes, absorbing information like a sponge. She wanted to help, needed to be useful. Winona understood that need. If men come with fire, what do you do? Lily considered the question seriously. I do not know. You do not run into the open. Fire makes light. Light makes you visible. You move low. You move toward water. You become part of the shadows. Like being invisible. Exactly like that. Mama taught me something like that. Before she died, she said small people can disappear if they are smart. Winona felt her heart clench. Your mother was wise. She was scared a lot, but she was wise too. Winona knelt down to the girl's level. Scared and brave are not opposites. Sometimes they are the same thing. The bravest people I have known were all scared. They just did what needed to be done anyway. Lily thought about this. Are you scared? Yes, but you are still fighting. Yes. Why? Because something matters more than fear. That afternoon, Winona taught Lily the warning signals. 3 short whistles meant danger approaching. 1 long whistle meant all clear. A specific bird call, the cry of a canyon wren, meant come to me now. She taught her the landmarks. The twisted juniper tree that marked the path to the cave. The red rock formation that pointed north. The dry creek bed that led east to the Cooper Ranch. She taught her how to hide, how to control her breathing so it made no sound, how to choose hiding spots with multiple exits, how to stay still for hours if necessary, letting her mind go quiet and empty. If you get separated from your father and me, Winona said, go to the cave. Wait until morning. If no one comes, follow the creek to Sarah's ranch. Can you do that? Yes. Promise me. I promise. Winona hugged the girl, feeling the small body press against hers. For a moment, just a moment, it was like holding her own son again. The same sight, the same warmth, the same fragile trust. She pushed the memory away. Grief was a luxury she could not afford right now. That night around midnight, while the others slept, Winona sat with Jack on the porch. The sky was enormous, thick with stars that cast faint shadows on the ground. No moon yet. It would rise around 4, a thin crescent, that would provide just enough light to see shapes moving against the darkness. "Tell me about your wife," Winona said. Jack was quiet for a long moment. Her name was Mary. She was a school teacher in Santa Fe. That is where I met her when I was tracking a gang of horse thieves through the territory. She was the kindest person I ever knew. She saw good in everyone, even people who did not deserve it. He stared at the stars. "I already told you how she died. What I did not tell you is that I could not even say goodbye. She died 2 hours before I arrived. The last thing she said, according to the neighbors who sat with her, was my name." He looked at his hands. "After she died, I could not do it anymore. Could not pin on the badge and pretend I had the right to protect anyone. So I quit, took ranch jobs, tried to disappear, and then I found Lily." He paused. "Her parents were killed by bandits on the trail from Missouri. She was hiding under the wagon when I rode up. 4 years old, covered in her mother's blood, not making a sound. She just looked at me with those eyes." He shook his head slowly. "I could not leave her. And once I picked her up, I could not put her down. She has been my daughter ever since. Not by blood, by choice." Winona understood. Family was not always about blood. Sometimes it was about standing together when everything else fell apart. "Your son," Jack said quietly. "What was his name?" "Samuel, after his father's father." "Tell me about him." Winona closed her eyes. "He was 3 years old. He liked horses. He used to sit on the fence and watch them for hours. He called them big dogs because he did not know the word for horse yet." She smiled at the memory. He laughed at everything. The chickens made him laugh. The goats made him laugh. His own toes made him laugh. Benjamin used to say he was born happy. The smile faded. When the fever came, he did not understand what was happening. He kept asking me to make it stop. I held him and sang to him and told him everything would be all right. I lied to him. She opened her eyes. I held him for 6 hours after he stopped breathing. Benjamin had to pry him from my arms. Jack reached out and took her hand. She let him. They sat like that, two broken people holding on to each other in the darkness until the first gray light of dawn touched the eastern horizon. The 48 hours passed, then 48 more. "Blackwood was playing a waiting game," Jack said on the third day, "letting fear do his work for him. He wants us to break, to run. We are not running. No, we are not." On the night of the third day, the attack came. Winona was on watch at the south side of the house when she heard them. Horses moving slowly through the darkness, trying for stealth and failing, because horses are large animals and large animals make noise. She gave the signal. 3 fingers raised toward the barn where Jack was positioned. He responded with a clenched fist. "Ready." From the bunkhouse where Daniel and the others slept, figures emerged. They had been sleeping in their clothes boots on weapons within reach. Now they moved to their preset positions, smooth and efficient. The riders came from the east. 6 of them spread in a loose line. They carried torches, flames casting jumping shadows across the scrubland. They stopped 300 yards out, too far for accurate rifle fire in the dark. Close enough to be seen, close enough to make their point. One of them shouted, a young voice cruel and eager. "Mrs. Stone, your time is up. We gave you a chance. Now you burn." Jack stood from behind the water trough Winchester to his shoulder. "First torch you throw, I put a bullet in whoever throws it. I have killed men at twice this distance in worse light. Try me." Laughter from the riders. "You are one old man with a rifle. We are 6. Count again." Daniel stepped into view from the barn, then Sarah from behind the feed shed. Then the 3 other men positioned at intervals, all armed. The laughter died. Jack continued, his voice carrying across the distance. "Now it is 7 against 6, and we are defending our home. You are committing arson. Which one of you wants to die tonight for Marcus Blackwood's money?" Silence. The riders conferred among themselves, voices too low to hear. Then another voice, older and more measured. "We are not here to kill anyone. Just following orders. Burn some wood. Send a message." Winona stood as well, rifle ready. "The message is received. Now here is mine. I have filed official documents with Judge Preston. Land deeds survey, records, witness statements. If you burn my property, you are destroying evidence in a federal land dispute. That is a federal crime. 10 years minimum in Leavenworth prison. She was bluffing about the filing. They had not done it yet, but the riders did not know that. More conferring. The torches wavered, doubts spreading like disease. You are lying, the young voice said. Am I? You want to bet 10 years in a federal prison to find out? Because I will still be here tomorrow and the day after, and the documents are already filed. Burning my barn will not change that. More silence longer this time. Then hoofbeats, a single rider approaching from a different direction. No torch, just the faint jingle of spurs and tack. Cole Hardin rode into view, his face grim in the starlight. He looked at the 6 men with their torches, then at the defenders behind their barricades. Stand down. His voice was quiet but carried authority. But Hardin, Mr. Blackwood, said, I know what he said. I am changing the orders. Stand down. Go back to the ranch. Now. He is going to be furious. Let him be furious. I am done burning out women and children in the middle of the night. Hardin turned his horse to face the defenders. This buys you 1 night, maybe 2. But Blackwood will not stop. He will find another way. Jack called back. Then let him try, legally. In court. In daylight. Hardin laughed. It was a bitter, weary sound. You think courts stop men like Blackwood? You are more naive than I thought. He paused and something changed in his face. The hardness softened just for a moment. My mother was Comanche. She was killed by Texas Rangers when I was 10 years old. They burned our home with her inside. He looked at Winona. I do not burn women out of their homes. Not anymore. He wheeled his horse and rode into the darkness. After a moment's hesitation, the other 6 followed, their torches growing distant, then disappearing entirely. No one moved for a full minute. The tension drained slowly like water seeping into sand. Daniel let out a long breath. What just happened? Hardin disobeyed a direct order, Jack said slowly. Which means either he is having second thoughts or he is playing a deeper game. Or Winona added, he is just tired. Sometimes men get tired of being monsters. They maintained the watch until dawn, but no one else came. In the gray light before sunrise, Winona went to check on Lily. The girl was awake, sitting up in bed with her doll clutched to her chest. Did they come? Yes. Did you fight them? We made them leave without fighting. That is better, right? Because nobody died. Yes, much better. But Jack's face was troubled. He drew Winona aside while the others prepared breakfast. Hardin disobeying Blackwood is a problem. How is it a problem? He saved us. Because it means Blackwood is losing control of his own men. When powerful men lose control, they do desperate things. We need to move fast. Get to Las Cruces today. Make this official before Blackwood does something we cannot recover from. They ate quickly, beans and cornbread, coffee strong enough to wake the dead. Then they saddled fresh horses and prepared to ride. That was when the unexpected visitor arrived. A single rider approaching from the west. Female, young, riding a fine chestnut mare. She wore a split riding skirt and a jacket too expensive for ranch country. As she drew closer, Winona recognized her from town. Eleanor Blackwood, Marcus Blackwood's daughter. Everyone tensed, hands moved toward weapons. The girl stopped 30 feet out, raised her hands, palms forward. Please, I am not here to fight. I am here to help. Help. Jack's voice was skeptical. You are Blackwood's daughter. I am, which is why I know what he is planning. And why I brought you this. She reached slowly into her saddlebag and withdrew a small wooden box. She dismounted, walked forward, carefully set the box on the ground, then stepped back. Jack approached cautiously, picked it up, opened it. Inside were letters, at least 20 of them written on fine paper sealed with wax. He pulled one out, unfolded it, began to read. His face went white. What is it? Letters from Blackwood to the land office. Bribes, specific amounts. $5,000 to alter the survey, $3,000 to delay any disputes, $2,000 to misfile opposing claims. He looked up at Eleanor. These are signed, dated. This is everything we need. Eleanor's face was pale but determined. My father has been doing this for 5 years, ever since my brother died. Recognition flickered in Winona's eyes. She had heard about Michael Blackwood, killed in an Apache raid when he was 15 years old. He used to be a good man, stern but fair. He taught Michael and me to ride. He read to us every night before bed. He believed in justice. Eleanor's voice cracked. And then Michael died. Apache raiders attacked the northern herd. Michael was learning to work cattle that summer. He was not supposed to be there, but he wanted to prove himself. She wiped her eyes. They found his body 3 days later. What was left of it? After that, Father changed. He became someone I do not recognize. He says he is bringing civilization to a savage land, making it safe. But all he is really doing is spreading his pain to everyone around him. Why are you doing this? Why are you betraying your own father? Eleanor met Winona's eyes. Because Michael would not have wanted this. My brother was good. He was kind. He never hated anyone, not even the Apache. He used to say they were just trying to protect their land the same way we would if someone tried to take ours. She lifted her chin. If Michael could see what Father is doing in his name, he would be ashamed. I cannot honor my brother's memory by staying silent while innocent people suffer. Winona studied the young woman, saw the courage there, also saw the grief, the terrible weight of choosing principle over family. If your father finds out you did this, he will never forgive you. I know. He might do worse than that. I know that too. Eleanor's jaw tightened. But I cannot stand by anymore. Use those letters. Take him to court. Stop him. She mounted her horse. I hope you win. I truly do. She rode away before anyone could respond. Sarah broke the silence. That girl just sacrificed everything. Yes, Winona said quietly. She did. Jack held the box like it contained diamonds. With these, we have an ironclad case. Blackwood cannot deny it, cannot bribe his way out. This is over. Not over, but we have a real chance now. They decided to ride to Las Cruces immediately. No time to wait. Every hour they delayed was another hour for Blackwood to discover his daughter's betrayal. Jack, Winona, Lily, and Sarah would go. Daniel and the others would stay to guard the ranch. If anything happens, Jack told Daniel, light 3 signal fires in a row on the ridge. We will see the smoke from 15 miles. They left before the sun cleared the mountains, pushing the horses hard in the cool morning air. About 7 miles out, riding through a narrow canyon, Winona pulled up short. Someone is watching us. How do you know I know? She dismounted, scanning the rocks above them, with eyes trained since childhood to spot what did not belong. Gray Wolf, I know you are there. The old man appeared from behind a boulder, materializing like smoke taking shape. He was over 70, his hair white as snow, his face a map of deep wrinkles. He wore traditional Apache clothing, the marks of a man who had refused reservation life. Gray Wolf was one of the last free Apache in the territory. He lived in the mountains, moving with the seasons, surviving on skills passed down through 100 generations. Winona had not seen him in years, but she had heard stories. He was said to know every hidden water source, every secret path, every cave where a person could disappear. He spoke to Winona in Apache. She responded in the same language, words she had not used in years, but still remembered like the rhythm of her own heartbeat. The conversation lasted several minutes. Jack watched, understanding nothing of the words but reading everything in their body language. Finally, Gray Wolf reached into the leather bag he carried and withdrew a rolled hide. He handed it to Winona. She unrolled it carefully. It was a map, hand-drawn in natural pigments on tanned deerskin, ancient, detailed. What is that Apache land boundaries from before the Spanish came? Before Mexico? Before America? She traced a line with her finger. This shows the true course of the water, where it rises, where it flows. The boundaries my people have known for 1,000 years. Will it hold up in court? It is older than the court, older than the country, but it is something. Evidence that the land office records are wrong, that Blackwood's claim is false. Gray Wolf spoke again, this time in halting English. Your mother would be proud. You fight like Chiricahua. You fight like your ancestors. Then he turned and vanished into the rocks as silently as he had appeared. They rode on. Las Cruces appeared on the horizon just before noon, a cluster of adobe buildings huddled against the desert. Population maybe 200, mostly Mexican and white, with a handful of Chinese who worked the mines and a few Pueblo who kept to themselves. Apache were not welcome unless they had a white sponsor. One of many unwritten rules that everyone understood. As they rode down the main street, Winona felt the eyes on her. The particular kind of stare that said, you do not belong here. You are not one of us. You are other. She had felt it in every town she had ever entered. Had felt it even at her own wedding when half the guests whispered about Benjamin marrying a squaw. She kept her face neutral. Let them stare. She had buried a husband and a child. Their opinions could not touch her. They went to the church first. San Albino, a small whitewashed adobe with a simple cross above the door. Father Michael Turner was in his 70s, bent with age, but sharp-eyed. He listened to their request, then nodded slowly. I remember when Benjamin Stone purchased that land. Good man. He came here for the baptismal records. Wanted to see the old Spanish deeds. Said he wanted to make sure everything was legal before he built. Do you still have those records? Everything is recorded. Everything is kept. The old priest led them to a back room. Shelves lined with leather-bound ledgers and loose papers wrapped in string. Here, 1821. The original land grant from the Spanish crown. Before Mexico. Before America. He laid out a yellow document. The ink was faded but still legible. Jack leaned over it, tracing the boundaries with his finger. This shows Willow Springs clearly within the Stone parcel. No question. Father Turner produced another document. And here is the survey from 1874 when the Americans took control. Same boundaries. Nothing changed. Can we take these? I can make copies. Certified copies with the church seal. It will take an hour. We will wait. While Father Turner worked in his small office, scratching copies with careful precision, they sat in the pews. The quiet wrapped around them like a blanket. Outside, the world was heat and dust and violence. In here, for a moment, there was peace. Lily fell asleep against Jack's shoulder, her doll clutched tight. Jack stroked her hair, absently, his eyes distant. Winona stared at the altar, at the simple wooden cross, and tried to remember the last time she had prayed. Her mother had prayed to Apache spirits. Benjamin had prayed to the Christian God. Their son had been too young to pray for anything except his mother when he was frightened. None of it had helped. Do you believe Jack's question was quiet? I do not know what I believe. I used to think I knew. Now I am not sure. My wife believed, went to church every Sunday, read scripture every night. It did not save her. No, it did not. But she died believing she was going somewhere better. And maybe that is worth something. Winona considered this. Or maybe it is just a story we tell ourselves so the pain makes sense. Maybe. But I have been living without stories for 2 years now. And I can tell you that the world is colder without them. They left the church with 3 certified copies of the original documents. Next was the land office. A plain wooden building, sun-bleached and sagging. Inside, a single clerk sat behind a desk, sweating through his shirt, despite the relative cool. Edgar Mills, 45 years old, overweight, nervous. His eyes widened when he saw Winona, then widened further when he saw Jack's steady gaze. Can I help you? His voice cracked. Jack stepped forward. We need to see the survey records for Silver Creek Valley, specifically the parcels near Willow Springs. Those records are being updated, not available for public viewing right now. Federal law requires land records to be open to the public at all times. Homestead Act of 1862, Section 4. Would you like me to ride to Santa Fe and get a United States Marshal to explain that to you? Because I still have friends there. Good friends. Mills paled to the color of old newspaper. Let me check. He disappeared into the back room. They heard shuffling papers, muttered curses, something falling. When he returned, his hands were shaking. He carried a large ledger and several folded maps. Jack opened the ledger with the care of someone who knew what he was looking for. The current survey showed the boundary line shifted, placing Willow Springs on Blackwood's side by almost a quarter mile. But something was wrong. Jack could see it immediately. The ink was different colors. Blue at the beginning of the entry, black halfway through. The handwriting changed mid-sentence from neat copperplate to something cruder, shakier. And the paper itself, when he held it up to the window, showed a difference. The original page had been carefully sliced along the margin. A new section had been glued in. This has been altered. Recently, within the last month, I would guess. Mills's Adam's apple bobbed. I do not know anything about that. You do not have to know. I can see it. Different ink, different hand, different paper stock. This is forgery. Criminal forgery of government documents. Jack leaned forward. Who authorized this change? I cannot say. Cannot or will not. Mills's eyes darted to the door, to the windows, to anywhere but Jack's face. Please, I have a family. My wife, my children, 3 daughters. The youngest is only 6. Who threatened them? I did not say anyone threatened. You did not have to. I know the look. I have seen it 100 times. Someone put fear in you. Someone made you choose between your gone and your family. Mills closed his eyes. When he opened them again, tears streaked down his cheeks. They came to my house. 2 of them. In the middle of the night, they stood at my daughter's window. Just stood there. Did not say anything. Did not have to. The message was clear. Blackwood's men, I never saw their faces. But yes, had to be. Winona stepped forward. We are not asking you to testify against him. Not yet. But we need you to sign a statement. A simple statement saying this record was recently modified. That the ink and paper do not match the original entry. Nothing more. Can you do that? Mills looked at her, saw the determination there, also saw the understanding. If I do this, you have to promise. Promise my family will be safe. I promise nothing except that we will fight him in court. Legally, with evidence. If we win, he will have no power over you or anyone else. And if you lose, Winona paused. If we lose, it will not matter what you signed. He will take what he wants anyway. The logic was brutal, also undeniable. Mills sat very still for a long moment. Then with shaking hands, he pulled out a sheet of official paper. He wrote out a brief statement, dated it, signed his name. His signature wobbled, but it was legible. Jack took it, folded it carefully into his pocket. Thank you. What you did today took courage. What I did today might have killed my family. Or saved them. We will see. They left quickly before Mills could change his mind or someone could stop them. Outside, the heat hit like a fist. The sun had reached its peak, merciless and white. Lily woke with a small cry, disoriented. It is all right, Jack murmured. We are done here. We got what we needed. They had the church documents, Mills's statement, Eleanor's letters, Grey Wolf's map. Enough evidence to challenge Blackwood in court. Maybe enough to win. Sarah was waiting with the horses in the shade of the general store awning. Did you get everything? Some of it, enough to make a case. Then we should get back. The longer we stay here, the more time for word to reach Blackwood. Jack nodded. We ride in 10 minutes. Let me get some supplies from the store first. He went inside with Sarah to buy ammunition and food for the return journey. Winona stayed with the horses, Lily beside her. That was when it happened. One moment, Lily was there holding Winona's hand as they stood in the shade. The next moment, she was gone. Winona turned. The space where Lily had been standing was empty. Her doll lay in the dust, dropped in the instant of abduction. Lily. No answer, Lily. Her voice cracked across the street. People turned to stare. Jack came running from the store, his face white. Where is she? Where is Lily? She was right here. I turned away for 1 second. A piece of paper lay on the ground where the doll had fallen. Jack snatched it up, his hands shaking. The message was written in block letters. Want the girl alive, bring the documents to Red Canyon. Midnight. Come alone, or we send her back in pieces. Jack made a sound, not quite human, the sound of something breaking inside him. No, 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 not Lily, not my little girl. Winona grabbed his shoulders, forced him to look at her. Jack, listen to me. We are going to get her back. They have her. They have my daughter. If anything happens to her, nothing is going to happen to her. You do not know that. I know that she is leverage. They want the documents. That means they will keep her alive until they get them. And then they will kill her anyway. She is a witness. Jack's legs gave out. He sat down hard in the dust, his face in his hands. For the first time since Winona had met him, she saw him completely broken. I cannot lose her. I already lost Mary. I cannot lose Lily too. She is all I have. She is everything. Winona knelt beside him. Then we do not lose her. We get her back. How if we give them the documents, Blackwood wins and Lily is still a witness. If we do not give them the documents, they kill her. We do not play their game. We play ours. Jack looked up, desperate hope flickering in his eyes. What do you mean? I mean, we do what the Apache do. We become invisible. We track. We find her. And we take her back. Sarah appeared beside them, her face grim. I saw them. 2 men. They grabbed her and went into the alley behind the mercantile. Horses were waiting at the other end. They headed south toward Red Canyon. How long ago? 5 minutes, maybe less. Winona stood, her mind already racing. Red Canyon is 3 miles south. Rough terrain, easy to ambush, hard to escape. They will wait there until midnight, expecting us to bring the documents. So we hit them before midnight. We hit them from above, from a direction they do not expect. She turned to Sarah. Find Daniel. Bring him and the others to Red Canyon. Approach from the north. Surround the exit. But do not move until you hear the signal. 3 wolf howls. What are you going to do? Jack and I are going to get his daughter back. The ride to Red Canyon was the longest 3 miles of Winona's life. She led Jack along paths that only Apache knew. Through crevices in the rock, along dry creek beds, up slopes so steep they had to dismount and lead the horses. It took twice as long as the main trail, but they approached from above, from a direction no one would think to watch. By the time they reached the rim of the canyon, the sun was setting. Golden light painted the rocks in shades of blood and honey. Winona crawled to the edge and looked down. A small camp had been set up on the canyon floor. 2 men sat by a fire, passing a bottle between them. 30 feet away, Lily was tied to a large boulder. She was alive. She appeared unharmed, but her eyes were wide with terror. Winona studied the terrain. The canyon walls were steep, but not vertical. A skilled climber could descend in about 3 minutes. The 2 men were focused on the bottle, not on their prisoner. She pulled back from the edge and spoke quietly to Jack. 2 guards. Lily is tied to a rock about 30 feet from them. I can get down there without being seen. When I make my move, you come down after me. Get Lily. Cut her loose. Do not stop for anything. What about the guards? Leave them to me. Winona, there are 2 of them. If something goes wrong, then something goes wrong, but Lily will be free. She met his eyes. I lost my son. I will not let you lose your daughter. Jack started to protest, but she was already moving. Winona descended the canyon wall like a shadow, finding handholds and footholds by instinct. Her mother had taught her to climb before she could walk. Her fingers remembered what her conscious mind had forgotten. She reached the canyon floor without making a sound. The 2 guards were still focused on their bottle, arguing about something in low voices. Lily had not seen her yet. Good. The child might make a noise if startled. Winona crept closer, using the scattered boulders for cover. 20 feet from the fire. 15. 10. She drew her bow. Silent death was the Apache way. The first arrow flew. It struck the nearest guard in the shoulder, spinning him around with a cry of pain. He dropped the bottle. It shattered on the rocks. Jack launched himself down the slope, half running, half sliding. The second guard leaped to his feet, clawing for his pistol. Winona's second arrow caught him in the thigh. He screamed and fell. Jack reached Lily in seconds. His knife flashed, cutting the ropes. He swept the girl into his arms. Papa, I have you, baby. I have you. You are safe now. The first guard was trying to draw his weapon with his good hand. Winona put her third arrow into the ground an inch from his face. Do not move. He froze. From the north end of the canyon came the sound of hoofbeats. Daniel and the others, right on schedule. The guards looked around wildly as armed riders appeared from both directions, trapping them completely. It was over in less than 2 minutes. Sarah rode up, her face fierce with triumph. We got them, both of them. Tie them up. We will let the sheriff in Las Cruces deal with them. Kidnapping a child is a hanging offense in this territory. The second guard, the one with the arrow in his thigh, was blubbering. It was not my idea. Blackwood's men paid us. Said it was just to scare people. We were not going to hurt the girl. Jack walked over to him, Lily still in his arms. His voice was calm. Too calm. You took my daughter. You tied her to a rock. You made her think she was going to die. He leaned close. If I ever see your face again, I will kill you. Not threaten, not arrest. Kill. Do you understand? The man nodded frantically. Winona touched Jack's arm. We should go. Blackwood will know something went wrong when these 2 do not report back. Jack looked at Lily. The girl had buried her face in his neck, her small body shaking. Are you all right? Did they hurt you? No, Papa. I was scared, but I did what Winona taught me. I became invisible in my head. I made myself very small and very quiet, and I knew you would come. She lifted her head and looked at Winona. I knew you would come too. Winona reached out and brushed a strand of hair from the girl's face. Always. You are family now. The ride back to Willow Springs was quiet. Lily fell asleep in her father's arms, exhausted by fear and relief. The others rode in silence, each lost in their own thoughts. They reached the ranch just as the first stars appeared. Eleanor Blackwood was waiting on the porch. She stood when she saw them approaching, her face anxious. Thank God. I heard what happened. I came as soon as I could. You could have warned us, Jack said. His voice was cold. I did not know, I swear. Father has men I do not even know about. When I heard about the kidnapping, She trailed off, looking at Lily in Jack's arms. Is she all right? She is alive. No thanks to your father. Eleanor flinched as if he had struck her. I know what he has become. That is why I am here. That is why I gave you those letters. She looked at Winona. I want to testify. At the hearing, I want to tell the judge everything I know about my father's crimes. About the bribes, the threats, the land he has stolen. You know what that will mean, Winona said quietly. He will never forgive you. He stopped being my father the day he became a monster. The man I loved died with Michael. What is left is just rage. Grief twisted into something poisonous. She straightened her spine. Someone has to stop him. And if not his own daughter, then who? That night, after Lily was asleep in her bed, Winona found Eleanor sitting alone under the cottonwood trees, staring at the two graves. Your son and my husband. I am sorry. So am I. For many things. Eleanor was quiet for a moment. Does it ever get easier? The grief, no. It just gets different. The sharp edges wear down. But the weight never really goes away. How do you bear it? Winona sat down beside her. You find reasons to keep going. People who need you. Work that matters. Small moments of beauty that remind you the world is not all darkness. She looked at the stars. And you learn that honoring the dead does not mean refusing to live. It means living well enough that their memory means something. Eleanor wiped her eyes. Michael would have liked you. He believed in justice, in doing what was right even when it was hard. Then honor him. Testify. Help us stop your father. Even if it destroys him. Winona looked at the young woman, saw the pain there, the impossible choice between family and principle. You cannot save someone who does not want to be saved, but you can save the people he would hurt. That is something. Eleanor nodded slowly. I will testify. I will tell everything. She looked at the graves again. Maybe that is the only way to honor Michael now, by being the person he believed I could be. The hearing was scheduled for August 15th, 10 days away, 10 days to prepare, 10 days to gather their witnesses, 10 days to turn evidence into justice, 10 days for Marcus Blackwood to try to stop them. But for the first time in months, Winona felt something that might have been hope. She had allies now, evidence, a plan, and she had a family again. Broken, imperfect, bound by choice rather than blood. Jack and Lily, Sarah and Daniel. Eleanor, who had sacrificed everything for a principle. They were not an army, but they were enough. The days before the trial passed in a blur of preparation. More than 30 people came to Willow Springs in the week before the hearing. Families from the Mexican community whose land Blackwood had stolen. White ranchers he had threatened. Even two Apache men who had left the reservation risking arrest to be there. Don Felipe, the oldest Mexican rancher in the valley, stood up to speak at one of their evening meetings. We have been afraid too long. Afraid of Blackwood, afraid of his money, afraid of his hired guns. But today we are not afraid anymore. Because if one woman can stand up, then why can we who call ourselves men not stand as well? Jack spent each day training the witnesses. When Blackwood's lawyer asks you questions, answer short. Yes or no. Do not explain unless asked. If he tries to confuse you, breathe deep, count to 3, then answer. If you do not remember, say I do not remember. Do not guess. Do not make things up. And most important, tell the truth. Only the truth. The truth is the strongest weapon we have. Winona practiced her opening statement until she could deliver it without notes, with passion and precision. Eleanor stayed at the ranch, helping with the house, helping with Lily's lessons, helping with anything that needed doing. She never spoke of her father. Winona did not push. One evening, Winona found Lily sitting on the fence watching the horses the way Samuel used to do. What are you thinking about? The girl was quiet for a moment. Do you think we will win? I do not know. But I think we have a chance. What happens if we lose? Winona sat down beside her. If we lose, we find another way to fight, or we leave and start over somewhere else. But we do not give up. We never give up. Lily nodded slowly. Papa says you are the bravest person he has ever met. Your papa is wrong. I am just stubborn. Is there a difference? Winona smiled. Maybe not. Lily was quiet for another moment. Can I call you Mama? The question hit Winona like a physical blow. For a moment she could not breathe. I, Lily, I am not your mother, I know. But you feel like a mother. You teach me things. You protect me. You hold me when I am scared. The girl looked up at her with those ancient eyes. My real mama is gone, and I will always miss her. But I think she would want me to have someone to call Mama again. I think she would want me to be happy. Winona felt tears on her cheeks. She did not wipe them away. If your father says it is all right, then yes. You can call me Mama. Lily smiled, the first real smile Winona had seen from her arm. I already asked him. He said to ask you. She threw her arms around Winona's waist. I love you, Mama. Winona held the girl, feeling the small body press against hers, feeling the warmth, the trust, the love. I love you too, little one. That night, Jack found Winona sitting alone on the porch staring at the stars. Lily told me what she asked you. Winona nodded. I hope that was all right. Jack sat down beside her. It was more than all right. It was perfect. He was quiet for a moment. I have been thinking about what happens after the trial, win or lose. And I do not want to leave. Not just because of the ranch, because of you. Winona turned to look at him. What are you saying? I am saying that somewhere in the past few weeks, this stopped being about paying a debt. It started being about something else. He met her eyes. I am saying that I have feelings for you. Real feelings. And I think you have feelings for me too. Winona was silent for a long moment. I have been alone for a long time. I thought that was how it had to be. That I did not deserve anything else, that wanting more was selfish or foolish or both. And now I am tired of being alone. Now I have a house full of people, and it does not feel crowded. It feels right. She looked at him. Yes, I have feelings for you too. Jack took her hand. Then let us see where this goes, after the trial, when we are not fighting for our lives. And if we lose the trial, then we lose together, and we figure out what comes next together. Winona squeezed his hand. Together. They sat like that hand in hand until the moon rose over the Chiricahua Mountains. August 15th dawned clear and merciless. The sun rose over Las Cruces like a judgment, turning the sky from purple to copper to burning white in the space of an hour. By the time Winona, Jack, Lily, and their small army of witnesses reached the town, the heat was already brutal. The kind of heat that made men question their resolve and women reach for deeper wells of strength. The courthouse was not truly a courthouse, just the largest room in the territorial building normally used for town meetings and grain storage. Today, it had been transformed. Rough benches faced a raised platform where Judge Preston would preside. A table for each side, standing room only for observers. More than 100 people had gathered, maybe closer to 200. They spilled out onto the street, crowding windows and doorways, straining to see and hear. This was more than a land dispute now. This had become a referendum on power itself. The crowd separated naturally into two camps. On the left, Blackwood's people. Wealthy ranchers, businessmen in suits, officials from Santa Fe. They radiated confidence and entitlement, the assurance of people who had never lost anything important. On the right, Winona's supporters. Mexican families, poor white ranchers, a handful of Chinese who worked the mines, and most surprising, 6 Apache men and women who had come despite the risk of arrest. They wore the faces of people who had everything to lose and nothing left to fear. Lily clutched Winona's hand as they entered. Are all these people here for you, for us, for everyone who has been pushed down and told they do not matter? They took their seats at the plaintiff's table. Jack sat next to Winona, his presence solid and reassuring. Behind them, Dura, Daniel, Don Felipe, and 24 others who would testify. At the other table, Marcus Blackwood sat flanked by 3 lawyers. The lead attorney was a man named Theodore Barrett, 50 years old with silver hair and a reputation for never losing. He wore a suit that cost more than most men earned in a year. Blackwood himself looked older than he had a week ago, grayer, more worn. His daughter's betrayal had taken something out of him. But his eyes, when they met Winona's across the room, still held iron determination. Judge William Preston entered from a side door. Everyone stood. He was wearing his formal robes, black and severe, his face set in the expression of a man who knew he was about to make enemies no matter what he decided. "Be seated," his voice carried authority. "We are here today for a preliminary hearing in the matter of Winona Stone versus Marcus Blackwood regarding disputed land boundaries in Silver Creek Valley. This is not a trial. This is a hearing to determine whether there is sufficient evidence to warrant a full trial." He looked at both tables. "I will hear evidence from both sides. I will question witnesses. At the end, I will make a determination. My decision is final and can only be appealed to the Territorial Supreme Court, which takes a minimum of 6 months." Barrett stood. "Your Honor, before we begin, I would like to move to dismiss this case on the grounds that Mrs. Stone, as an Apache woman, does not have legal standing to own land under the Homestead Act." A murmur ran through the crowd. Winona felt her stomach drop. Judge Preston's eyes went cold. "Counselor, Mrs. Stone inherited the land from her late husband, Benjamin Stone, a white American citizen who purchased the land legally. Under common law, widows inherit their husband's property. This is established precedent. Your motion is denied. Sit down." Barrett sat, but he was smiling slightly. He had made his point, planted the seed of doubt. Preston gestured to Winona. "Mrs. Stone, you are representing yourself. You may give your opening statement." Winona stood. Her hands were shaking. She pressed them flat against the table until they stopped. Then she turned to face the room. "My name is Winona Stone. I am the widow of Benjamin Stone. I am the mother of a son who died 3 years ago. I am half Apache and half white. I am American and I am other. I do not fit cleanly into anyone's idea of who should own land or have rights." She paused, letting the words settle. "But I am here today because I believe in something simple. The law. Not the law as it is bought and sold, not the law as it is twisted to serve the powerful, but the law as it was written, fair, clear, applied equally." She picked up the church documents, held them high enough for everyone to see. "This is a land deed from 1821, Spanish Crown grant. Before Mexico, before America. It shows clear boundaries. It shows that the land I live on, including Willow Springs, has been privately owned for 62 years. She set it down, picked up the survey document. "This is the official American survey from 1874. Same boundaries. Not changed, not adjusted. The same." Now she picked up the altered land office record. "This is the current record from the land office, dated 1883. The boundaries have been changed, moved, redrawn to take my water and give it to Mr. Blackwood." She walked to Judge Preston's bench, set it down in front of him. "But look closely. Different ink, different handwriting, different paper stock. This document has been altered, forged, changed to steal land from a widow." The room erupted in whispers. Preston banged his gavel once. Silence fell. Winona returned to her table. "I have witnesses who will testify to this forgery. I have evidence of bribery. I have proof that Marcus Blackwood has been systematically stealing land across this territory by corrupting the very systems meant to protect us." She looked directly at Blackwood. "My husband built our home with his own hands. My son is buried under a cottonwood tree on that land. I have bled for it, worked for it, defended it, and I will not let it be taken by lies and money." She sat down. The room was silent. Even Blackwood's supporters looked uncertain. Barrett stood slowly adjusting his cuffs. "That was very moving, Mrs. Stone. Very emotional. But emotion is not evidence, and evidence is what this court requires." He began to pace, his voice smooth and reasonable. "Let us talk about facts. Fact 1. Land boundaries are complex. Surveys change as technology improves. What looked like one boundary in 1821 might be recognized as different in 1883. This is normal. This is expected. Fact 2. My client Marcus Blackwood is a respected member of this community. He has built schools, repaired roads, employed hundreds of people. He is not a thief. He is a businessman operating within the law. Fact 3. The supposed evidence of forgery is speculation. Different ink. Perhaps the clerk simply ran out and used a different bottle. Different handwriting. Perhaps a different clerk made the entry. Different paper. Perhaps the original was damaged and had to be replaced." He turned to face Winona. What Mrs. Stone is really asking this court to do is to overturn legitimate business transactions because she does not like the outcome. That is not how law works. That is not how civilization works. He sat down confident. Judge Preston looked at Winona. Call your first witness. I call Edgar Mills, clerk of the land office. Mills stood from the back of the room. He looked like a man walking to his own execution. His face was pale, his hands trembling. But he walked forward and took the witness chair. Jack stood to question him. Judge Preston had allowed it as he was technically an advisor rather than an attorney. State your name and occupation. Edgar Mills. I am the clerk of the land office in Las Cruces. How long have you held that position? 12 years. In those 12 years, have you ever altered an official land record? Mills' voice was barely audible. Yes. How many times I do not know exactly. Maybe a dozen. And why did you alter these records? Mills closed his eyes. When he opened them again, tears streaked down his face. Because I was paid to, or threatened. Sometimes both. The room exploded. Preston's gavel banged 3 times before order was restored. Jack continued, his voice gentle but relentless. Who paid you? Different people. Mostly agents working for large landowners. Did any of those agents work for Marcus Blackwood? Yes. How many times did you alter records on behalf of Mr. Blackwood or his agents? 7 times. That I can remember clearly. And the record showing Willow Springs on Mr. Blackwood's land. Did you alter that record? Yes. 6 weeks ago, a man came to my office, gave me $500 cash, told me to redraw the boundary line. Told me if I refused, my family would be hurt. Jack picked up the signed statement, and Mills had given them. Is this your signature? Yes, and you stand by what you wrote, that the record was falsified? I do. God help me, I do. Barrett shot to his feet. Objection. This witness has just admitted to multiple felonies. He is a self-confessed criminal. His testimony is worthless. Preston leaned forward. Counselor, criminals can testify about crimes they witnessed or participated in. That is how we catch the people who ordered the crimes. Overruled. Continue. Jack returned to his seat. No further questions. Barrett approached Mills like a wolf approaching wounded prey. Mr. Mills, you admit you are a criminal, a forger, a man who takes bribes, yes. And you expect this court to believe you now. After 12 years of corruption, I expect nothing. I am just telling the truth. The truth. How convenient that your truth serves Mrs. Stone's case. Did she pay you to testify? Number, threaten you? No. Then why are you suddenly so honest? Mills looked up, meeting Barrett's eyes. Because I am exhausted from lying. Tired of being afraid. Sick of looking at my daughters and knowing I am teaching them that honesty does not matter. His voice broke. My youngest is 6. She asked me last week if I was a good man. I could not answer her. So I am answering now, in front of God and everyone. I am not a good man, but maybe I can stop being a bad one. The room was silent. Even Barrett seemed at a loss for words. Preston spoke quietly. Mr. Mills, after this hearing, you will be arrested and charged with forgery and accepting bribes. You understand that, yes, Your Honor, and you still choose to testify? I do. Then you may step down. Winona called 6 more witnesses that morning. Don Felipe testified about how Blackwood's men had driven his cattle off a cliff, then claimed they were stolen. A white rancher named Cooper told how Blackwood had bought his land for 1/10 its value after mysterious fires destroyed his barn. Sarah spoke about her husband's death, her voice steady, but her eyes fierce. Each story added another brick to the wall of evidence. By noon, when Preston called a recess, Blackwood's confident facade had cracked. He conferred urgently with his lawyers, his voice too low to hear but his agitation clear. Outside in the shade of the courthouse overhang, Winona and her supporters gathered. Someone had brought water and bread. They shared it communally, a small moment of peace in the battle. Lily leaned against Winona. Are we winning? I think so. Maybe. It is hard to tell. Jack crouched next to the girl. What do you think? You have been watching. I think the judge believes us, but I think he is scared. Jack and Winona exchanged glances. Out of the mouths of children. You are right, Jack said. He does believe us, and he is scared. Because believing us means going against a very powerful man. That takes courage. Do you think he has courage? We are about to find out. The afternoon session began with Blackwood's defense. Barrett called character witnesses. The mayor of Las Cruces, who praised Blackwood's civic contributions. a priest who spoke of his generous donations, a territorial senator who called him a pillar of the community. Then Barrett called Blackwood himself. The man took the stand with dignity. He placed his hand on the Bible, swore to tell the truth, and sat with his back straight and his face composed. Barrett began gently. Mr. Blackwood, how long have you lived in this territory? 22 years. I came here as a young man, built my first ranch from nothing. And your family? My wife died in childbirth. My daughter Eleanor is 19. My son Michael was killed 5 years ago by Apache raiders. His voice caught. He was 15. I am sorry for your loss. Thank you, Mr. Blackwood. Did you bribe Edgar Mills to alter land records? Num. Did you threaten his family? Num. Did you order anyone in your employ to do so? Absolutely not. I run a legitimate business. I purchase land legally. If boundaries are unclear, I rely on official surveys. That is what they are for. The prosecution has painted you as some kind of land baron stealing from innocent people. How do you respond? Blackwood leaned forward, his voice passionate. I am trying to build something here. This territory is wild, dangerous. My son died because it was not safe. I want to change that. I want to bring railroads, schools, law and order. Yes, I buy land. Yes, I consolidate holdings. But I do it legally, because civilization requires large-scale investment. You cannot build a railroad by negotiating with 100 small landowners. You need vision. You need capital. You need someone willing to take risks. It was a good answer. Too good. Rehearsed. Jack stood for cross-examination. Mr. Blackwood, you say you operate legally. Can you explain why 7 different land records were altered in your favor over the past 3 years? I cannot explain errors made by the land office. 7 identical errors, all benefiting you. That is quite a coincidence. I suppose it is. Did you know Edgar Mills was corrupt? I did not. But you benefited from his corruption. If the records are incorrect, I will abide by whatever the court decides. Jack pulled out the box of letters Eleanor had provided. Do you recognize these? Blackwood's face went white. Where did you get those? Answer the question. Do you recognize them? Those are private correspondence. They are letters detailing bribes you paid to various officials, signed by you, dated, with specific amounts. Jack selected one. This letter offers $5,000 to alter the Willow Springs survey. Your signature is at the bottom. Barrett jumped up. Those letters were obtained illegally. They cannot be admitted as evidence. Preston held up his hand. Where did you get these letters, Mr. Dawson? They were given to me by someone who had legal access to them. By whom? Jack hesitated. He did not want to expose Eleanor. Before he could answer, a voice came from the back of the room. By me. Eleanor Blackwood stood. She was wearing a simple gray dress, her face pale but determined. She walked forward through the crowd. Blackwood half rose from his seat. Eleanor, no. She ignored him. She walked to the witness chair. I took those letters from my father's office. I gave them to Mr. Dawson. They are real. The room erupted into chaos. Preston banged his gavel repeatedly. Barrett was shouting about chain of custody and privileged documents. Blackwood was staring at his daughter with a mixture of heartbreak and fury. Preston finally restored order. Miss Blackwood, you understand what you are doing. I do your honor. Why? Eleanor looked at her father. When she spoke, her voice carried across the silent room. Because Michael died believing in justice, not vengeance. He would weep to see how his death has been used to justify cruelty. I cannot honor his memory by staying silent while innocent people suffer. Tears rolled down her face. I love my brother. I love my father. But I cannot let this continue. She held up one of the letters. These are real. Father wrote them. Father signed them. Father ordered the bribes, the threats, the violence. I know because I heard him. I saw him. And I can no longer pretend I do not know. Blackwood stood, his face twisted with anguish. Eleanor, you do not understand what you have done. Everything I did was for us, for our family, to make sure we were never hurt again. No, Father. Her voice was soft but firm. You did it because you were hurt. And instead of healing, you hurt others. That is not justice. That is just pain spreading like disease. She turned back to Preston. I will testify to whatever you need. I will tell everything I know. Not because I want to hurt my father, but because someone has to stop him before he destroys more lives. Blackwood sank back into his chair. In that moment, he looked 100 years old. Preston removed his glasses, cleaned them slowly. When he spoke, his voice was heavy. I am calling a recess until tomorrow morning. I need to review the evidence. All of it. This court is adjourned. That evening back at the ranch, no one felt like celebrating. They had won the day, but at what cost? A daughter had betrayed her father. A family had been destroyed in public. Winona found Eleanor sitting alone under the cottonwood trees, staring at the two graves. Your son and my husband, I am sorry. So am I, for many things. Winona sat beside her. What you did today took courage. It took desperation. There is a difference. No, there is not. Winona was quiet for a moment. My son died of fever. There was nothing I could do. Your brother died in violence. There was nothing you could do. But we both have to live with the after, and we get to choose what we do with it. Father chose revenge, and you chose justice. That is the difference that matters. Eleanor wiped her eyes. I do not have anywhere to go now. He will never forgive me. Then you stay here. Until you do. It is not an imposition. It is family. The family we choose when the one we are born with fails us. Inside the house, Jack was teaching Lily a card game. Sarah was cooking. Daniel was cleaning rifles. It was domestic and strange and beautiful. That night, Winona lay awake listening to the sounds of her full house. Eleanor in the small room that had been storage. Lily in what had been her son's room. Jack sleeping on the floor of the main room, refusing the bed, saying he had slept on worse. She thought about family, about how it was not always blood. Sometimes it was choice. Sometimes it was necessity. Sometimes it was just people standing together because standing alone was too hard. Tomorrow, Judge Preston would make his decision. Tomorrow, they would learn if the law was strong enough to defeat money and power. Tomorrow, everything would change. But tonight, she had this, a house full of people who mattered. A child's laughter, a man's quiet presence, a young woman's courage. It was enough. Whatever came next, this moment was enough. Judge Preston delivered his verdict at 10 o'clock the following morning. The courtroom was even more crowded than before. Word had spread. This was not just about land anymore. This was about whether the law meant anything to anyone who was not rich and white and powerful. Preston entered and the room fell silent. He carried a sheaf of papers, his decision written out. His face revealed nothing. I have reviewed all the evidence presented in this case. The testimony of witnesses, the documentary evidence, the letters provided by Miss Eleanor Blackwood. He paused. What I have found disturbs me greatly. He looked directly at Marcus Blackwood. Mr. Blackwood, you have systematically corrupted the lands office, bribed officials, and used threats of violence to steal land from honest people. The evidence is overwhelming, undeniable. He shifted his gaze to Winona. Mrs. Stone, your land boundaries are clear. The original Spanish grant, the American survey, and your husband's deed all agree. The alteration of the land office records was criminal fraud. Willow Springs is yours, has always been yours, will remain yours. A cheer went up from Winona's supporters. Preston banged his gavel. I am not finished. He turned back to Blackwood. Mr. Blackwood, you are hereby fined $10,000. You are prohibited from owning or purchasing land within 50 miles of Silver Creek Valley. And I am referring this matter to the United States Marshal's Office for criminal prosecution on charges of bribery, conspiracy, and forgery. Barrett stood. Your Honor, we will appeal. That is your right. But my decision stands until and unless the Territorial Supreme Court overturns it, which, given the evidence, I find unlikely. Preston fixed Blackwood with a hard stare. You allowed grief to turn you into the very thing that took your son. Raiders who take what they want by force. There is no honor in that. No justice. Just pain spreading across the land like wildfire. Blackwood said nothing. He simply stood, turned, and walked out. His lawyers hurried after him. Eleanor did not follow. She stayed in her seat, hands folded, tears streaming silently down her face. Preston addressed the room one final time. Let this be a lesson to everyone. The law is not for sale, not in my courtroom, not in this territory. Dismissed. The crowd erupted. People were cheering, crying, embracing. Don Felipe lifted his hat and shouted in Spanish. Sarah grabbed Winona and pulled her into a fierce hug. Lily climbed onto Jack's shoulders, laughing. We won, Mama. We won. Winona heard it, the word Mama. Not just in private, in public. Claiming her. Choosing her. She reached up and took Lily's hand. Yes, baby. We won. Outside the courthouse, the celebration continued. Someone had brought whiskey. Someone else had food. It turned into an impromptu fiesta, the whole community letting out years of suppressed fear and rage and hope. But Winona found herself pulled away from it, walking toward the edge of town where the desert began. Jack followed, giving her space but staying close. She stopped at a rise overlooking the valley. From here she could see for miles. The land she had fought for. The land her husband had chosen. The land where her son was buried. What are you thinking? Jack's question was quiet. That it is not over. Blackwood will appeal. His lawyers will find ways to delay, to challenge. This could go on for years, probably. But you won today. The judge ruled in your favor. That is not nothing. No, it is